Well, a couple of things. Number one, I think he watches First Take, at least occasionally, because I don't think there's a person alive that didn't hear me go off about the Warriors. Let me say this, and Max, just step back for a second here, Molly, you as well, because I want to make sure that these comments are my own, and Max and Molly and First Take is not held accountable for what I'm about to say. Steph Curry is the greatest shooter in the history of basketball. Steph Curry is a future Hall of Famer. Steph Curry is a champion, and he's one of the best people you will ever meet in your life. Got nothing but love for the brother. But when he sits up there and he says it's easy for the critics, for folks to get at you while you're down, he has a point. He's not wrong. Until you take into consideration folks that spend their hard-earned money to come out and watch you perform and see what we saw the first two games against the Golden State Warriors. Let me be very, very clear. I said that the Warriors in the first two games looked like trash, and I meant every damn word of it. Ain't nobody backing up. It's a fact. I certainly wasn't talking about him because Steph Curry going to be Steph Curry. I'm talking about effort. The fact of the matter is in the first two games, they gave up 141 points and 120. They look ill-prepared defensively. I know Willie Cauley-Stein was hurt. He's coming back. I know Kevon Looney was hurt. He's coming back. I get all of that. I expected you to lose those games. We totally understand it. 9 players, 23 years of age or under. Totally understand that. That would explain why you're not efficient offensively. But defensively, with that lack of effort that you saw, how ill-prepared they looked defensively, they were down by 33 points at halftime to Oklahoma City on a Sunday afternoon. That was damn near worse than what Janet Jackson and Justin Timberlake pulled off a few years ago on a Sunday afternoon. And y'all know what I'm talking about. Let's call it what it is. They looked like garbage. And what I said was, excuse me, 5-time reigning Western Conference champions, Draymond Green sat up there and said they stunk. Steph could have had no choice but to admit that. Steve Kerr came out after the Clippers game, opening in a new arena in San Francisco, not Oakland, their new billion-dollar playpen, and said, this is our reality. Well, what the hell you mean that's your reality? We ain't talking about losses because we understand that you're not going to be what you was without Kevin Durant and with Klay Thompson hurt. We get that. We understand that. I'm talking about effort on the defensive end of the floor. When you look like you just didn't come to play with effort to open the NBA season, why would we not call you out? What was my problem? Max, what did I say about LeBron James opening night? We know how great he is. We understand it. But excuse me, Kawhi is calling you out. He's trolling you with commercials and endorsements and all of this other stuff. And you're just going to take the attitude, it's a long season. You think the fans showed up at the Staples Center that night to expect that attitude from you? You think when we watch you on national television and we ran to our television sets, glued to the television, looking at the Clippers going up against the Lakers, that's what we expected? You think when we look at the Golden State Warriors, even though you don't have those dudes, but you still have Steph, and you still have Steve Kerr, and you still have Draymond, you think we expected to see you giving up an average of 130 points a game in the first two games, looking like you were totally disinterested defensively? All I'm saying is, as fans, you don't have a right to get on them all the damn time about what they say or what they don't say, asking them to be political and all of this other nonsense. But you do have a right to look at them as ball players and say, yo, are you going to play? What the hell you doing? And the first two games, that's what they provoked. I stand by what I said. And I respect the hell out of Steph Curry. And I certainly wasn't talking about him as an individual. But I know what I saw from the Golden State Warriors. I spoke to the team. I spoke to several members of that organization over the last few days. I said the first two games, they looked like trash, and I stand by it. They looked good last night, but the first two games, they looked like trash.
For sure. Max?
This is why Russell Westbrook's my favorite player. I don't claim that he's the best player, but he's never cheated anybody out of any effort. Stephen A., I'm going to read something. This is like one of LeBron's favorites, and it's also one of mine by Teddy Roosevelt, the speech he gave, former president, of course, trustbuster, the man in the arena, okay? And a lot of athletes love this, but I want to address this. It is not the critic who counts, not the man who points out how the strong man stumbles or where the doer of deeds could have done them better. The credit belongs to the man who is actually in the arena, whose face is marred by dust and sweat and blood, who strives valiantly. Okay, that's the point that you're making. You're not asking them to be perfect. You're asking them to strive valiantly. Now, whenever I hear an athlete turn around and go back at us, at critics, and you in this case, Steph's pretty obviously going at you in this case, that signals the wrong thing to me. Like, if the athlete wants to stay, or Steph in this case wants to say to you, yeah, it's easy to do your job. Well, Steph, it's a lot easier to do this job than to do your job. Yes, that is true. It is much more difficult to make the NBA than to get on and perform there, than to get on TV and talk, even if you're very successful at it. But that's not what this is about. That really obscures or misdirects attention. It is this job, even if it's easier, to point out things, to criticize. And in this case, Stephen A., I don't want to speak for you, but in my view, what you were pointing out is not where the doer of deeds could have done them better. You're actually pointing out you simply want them to strive valiantly. You want to see the effort, and there's nothing wrong with that. Now, in terms of the gist of it, athletes frequently use what they perceive as criticism to fuel themselves. And I point out, I remember Derek Jeter after the Yankees, I think, won 125, I think it was 98 when they won 125 games and the World Series. And I heard Derek Jeter, who's the most beloved athlete in the world, especially in New York, talking about, the doubters. I was thinking, who, what? No one doubted that team. But athletes have to tell themselves that to give, because they're looking for motivation, because they're competing against the other best athletes in the world.
Thanks for watching ESPN on YouTube. For more sports highlights and analysis, be sure to download the ESPN app. And for live streaming sports and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.